We're live, buddy. What's going up, Mr. Isaacs?
Are we live? Are we live?
Yeah, I think so. Let me check. Yes, we've got a pulse.
Whoops. And all right, let's see. Yep, we are live. I see it. I see it on the thing. And not only that, I'm hearing it double. So let's fix that. Get all this little ironing out of our way. And for some reason, I'm not logged into Twitch, so I don't have the opportunity yet to engage in the chat with all of our people. So give me a second for that, because I'm sure we're going to get flooded in just about a second.
Yeah.
As all the people from Twitter make their way, we hope, on our bait and switch, the bait and switch episode.
The old switcheroo.
I do like that cool background. That's fancy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. So, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm great. I'm getting into this live streaming thing. I'm trying to share the knowledge, and it's kind of forcing me over the hump because it's not so much. It's not quite as much work on editing because it's already out the door.
Well, that's what that's what I was finding with streaming, and that was working for me. And then, you at least have the archive always available. And when it's something like this, people can watch, and they're going to fast forward and rewind as they need to. But I totally agree. Because for me personally, if I took all the time it would take to do the editing, I'd never get anything out the door.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
So yeah. But so good. So we are here. We had a slight hiccup, unfortunately. But glad some people are starting to find us over here. Our usual awesome hosts at Participate, would normally have been hosting us today, but we just ran into a tiny technical glitch there. So we're here. But I'm glad whoever you are that are in that are watching are here as well. Yes. So I guess like what we've been doing is I'm going to just start with a quick kickoff of what we're talking about here in terms of the lesson plans and things that we're working from. So Brian Cleverlike here and I created a number of Hour of Code activities using Fortnite Creative to teach computer science concepts. So if you go here, and I'll drop this in the chat, this is the this is the actual lesson plans page, which you'll find lesson plans using Fortnite Creative, Unreal Engine, and Twinmotion for basically a variety of topic areas and, including, science, social studies, computer science, and a lot of other, content areas. But if you go into the tags here and filter for Hour of Code, you'll notice that it brings up this nifty set of, count them, 10, I believe, 10 activities, 5 that use Fortnite Creative to teach some pretty great computer science concepts in a fairly stealthy manner. And then the other ones where you see this nifty character flying through the air are all activities done with Unreal Engine and Hour of Code. And those were created, primarily by Brian and Ian Southwell. And I contributed with the lesson plan parts, but they did an amazing job with the content. And it takes you through basically 5. No sound.
No, it's good.
It's good. Okay. Haha. LOL. And welcome, Kratos. I'm glad you found us.
What's up, Kratos?
Yeah. So the what was I saying here? Something about these. Oh, the Unreal Engine ones. They take you through a sequence of 5 activities, lesson 1 through 5, that really take you through creating a very beautiful platform game. And once you've got that under your belt to build on that game idea, there's so much that you could do. Even one of the awesome YouTubers, Dev Addict, who put together a beautiful tutorial showing all 5 of these lessons, went on to continue to use the assets and create like a multiplayer game and some other cool stuff.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. So for the past this is our fifth, I would say 5 weeks, but it's really been longer because of holidays and stuff. Brian and I have been going through the Fortnite Hour of Code lessons, and people have been voting every week. And I was absolutely right that this week the winner was going to be the Making Music with Fortnite Creative.
Man, I lost a bet on that one.
Yeah. I was fairly sure, and I was right. I'm a big fan of process of elimination, and I was able to use those skills here, which probably in some ways is a computer science skill.
Absolutely.
So anyway, so each of these activities come with a lesson plan, which I'll just kind of show you real quick. And this is like your essentially teacher facing, print this out, put it on, hand it to your supervisor when they come to observe you, and have them be very excited that you've covered everything that, that speaks to the pedagogy of the lesson. And this also has, ideas about teaching the basic concepts that we're going to get through. So in this one, we're talking about loops. So we get into loops here a bit. It actually has the activity, which is going to take you to the to what I'll show you next. And it also gets into everything, including some external resources, a rubric for assessment, and mapping to standards, typically computer science standards. And I believe we also cover the ISTE standards, or all the ISTE standards are kind of hidden here as well. Okay, but the computer science, we aligned it specifically with the CSTA standards. So that's that. Then the student guide and teacher guide are almost identical. The difference, and I'll go through to the teacher's guide to demonstrate this. The teacher's guide is everything the student guide would have, which is essentially the absolute step-by-step that a student would go through. It's a guided activity. But if you notice these nifty big blue call-out boxes, these are the teacher notes. So as we were going through, the student guide, we wanted to make sure that certain things that a teacher might want to know were kind of, highlighted and featured. So, little things like sometimes there's something where you might want to remind a student about a certain aspect, or maybe at a good point where you want to have students test their project and, iterate on it at that point. Things like that are kind of called out where appropriate. But a beautiful PDF with everything a kid needs, which also, I like to make it clear that this can be done in school, but these activities were designed so a kid could come in here, want to learn to use Fortnite Creative and just run with it. And to give you a case study, so to speak, my students in my game design class, these were all made available to them. And what I thought was super cool is I have a lot of kids who came in, I always talk about student expertise. And so many of my kids came in already pretty well versed at Fortnite Creative. And I'm happy to report that everyone that did any of these tutorials came back because they reflect on it afterwards, to share the numerous things they learned despite the fact that they thought they knew everything. So we are very proud of the fact that there is a lot of opportunity here for everybody to learn. And it's done, I think, in a manner that, allows even, like a lot of the teachers that have been doing these before they hand it off to their students have been able to kind of work through it as well. But also remember that that's not always so necessary. It's great to have the base understanding of what's possible, but remember, the kids are going to be more comfortable right out of the gate. So don't get hung up on that part. So with that, I will stop yapping and hand it over to Mr. Cleverlight, because we have a lot of music to make together today.
That sounds so much fun. Yeah, buddy. I'm excited about this one. I am kind of surprised, and I think everyone else will realize, like, they'll be surprised too, that it took us so long to get to this one, because this is really cool. Gatlin Shadow's in the house. What's going on? Gatlin Shadow's our creative director. That's Ian that Steve was talking about. I'm gonna switch to my screen here. So yeah, we are in Fortnite Creative. So believe that, like, not only can you play Fortnite, but you can create in Fortnite and give.
No way.
Yes. But wait, there's more. So you give students a voice, really a way to communicate. And that's the cool thing. Like Steve was saying, like they learn things that they didn't already know because we're unraveling things that they haven't thought of before and then giving them a new voice, a new way to communicate. And I love stuff like that. So I'm going to click on play. And in this case, I would go into, you can jump straight into somebody's island code. That's to play a published map that somebody else published. Play is to kind of like match make and play in worlds with other people. But create is to basically launch your own playground where you can play in. And that's what we're going to do. And this will take us into the Creative Hub. Creative Hub is actually made by the community, and they rotate it every week. And you get to see some of the things you can accomplish in the creative building. This started out as essentially nothing, and somebody built it from all the building blocks in Fortnite Creative. Super cool. Wow, it's a little... and so one of the things you want to look for is your gold portal, kind of hidden down here. It's typically straight ahead when you spawn in. It's typically straight ahead, which just is a little underground. And you'll not jump straight into it because that'll teleport you to your world, but you want to go up to this console here. And this is how you can change where this portal leads you to, where this rift is what it's called. And so in this case, I think I'm going to go into the world that myself and Gatlin have created with some help from Yerk YT, a creator.
And if you could, when you're ready, just invite me in. I'd love to jump into the world.
Oh, yeah, of course. Party!
Yeah, party.
You're on the GD WAMs?
I am.
Okay. You have consider yourself invited.
I love being invited.
Okay. So I am going to head into the rift now that it's been programmed to take me to this world that I've created. Okay, now this is a pre-existing world in the lesson plan. It tells you to kind of go into a grid world, and what's nice about a grid world is that it has grids, which are very helpful when you're making music. And so I think this is actually a grid world, and we'll head over to that area. I just wanted you to see an implementation of some of the different things. This is the obstacle course, of coin collecting slide, escaping from the tower, and there is our music example. But we'll come over here and build our own.
So cool.
So
now, that makes me think. So these rifts that you have in this kind of the area you created, I guess you could label them with like a billboard, but I wonder if you could make it that the HUD shows what, because I see these two rifts here, and you know what I mean? I'm just wondering if that's a...
Yeah, you can definitely, they're kind of there. It's still, this world is still in development, but I'll publish the code when it's done, and you'll be able to interact with all the different hour of code activities as they've been implemented.
Wow.
And so I've kind of been working on that in my spare time. But yeah, so I'll have this all fully implemented and ready to go.
So where did you go? Did you go into one of these rifts?
So I head out to beyond the obstacle course, basically, is kind of where I am. So if you follow the obstacle course with the water and head over the hill, you can see kind of like behind the scenes of our Disney set.
Behind the obstacle course. Wait, how do I get behind? How do I get to the
fly? Can you? Oh, maybe can you not fly?
I guess not.
GD WAMs. You can only play.
Can you TP GD WAMs to Timberlake?
Not today. That's a different class. Okay, so if you're following along in the lesson plan, you basically will be in a grid island like this. And what we want to do is talk about music. You know what? as a kid, I got the computer, so I didn't get the music lessons. I don't know about you, Steve. Did you grow
No,
up
I did. I played
playing
piano.
music?
Yep, I
Yeah?
was. Yep.
Okay, so I don't really have any music background or experience as like some artiste in music. So this was kind of a fun exploration for me in learning about music and how to implement it inside of Fortnite Creative. So obviously tempo, you want to talk about, that's a controllable piece of the music in Fortnite, and that's the speed at which the music plays, right? And then you have measures or bars, which are the chunks of music that are broken up. But what I love about music is it's so organized and so algorithmic and formulaic, but it can be made to sound so loose and free. I just love it. Like, it has so much structure, and yet it that's partly what makes it sound so great. And we're going to leverage the music structure in the way we build this as well. So you have your measures or bars that typically is your 4 count. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Okay, so that's the pacing. That's the basic. There are more creative ways to break down music, but we're going to stick with a simple 4/4 type layout here. And then you have obviously your music notes that go into the measures, and they play at certain times. They hold for certain durations. You can wait and rest, but the location of the note is very specific to when that note plays. And I'm sure everybody knows that, but it's good to reiterate, especially for the students that didn't get the music lesson. I have brought up the recorder on more than one occasion. Which seems to be a staple in our schools. You guys,
that's like what, 3rd grade or something?
My kids have recorders in that. Yeah.
And you wonder why the teacher was so cruel to send your child home with a recorder.
Yeah. When they could have just, forced them into Fortnite Creative.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which you'll see is like super compelling. So what we're going to do is going to go into our inventory. Now, a couple of disclaimers here. We're not going to show you like how to navigate and navigate your way around creative mode. There are other lessons we have on that. We have a Teaching with Fortnite Creative lesson that you can actually use to understand how to play the game if you need that familiarity. But just kind of, if you're following along, you'll see little squares. Oh no, I don't think it works in full screen. You'll see little squares next to the different commands. Those are the keys or the button presses that get me to those commands. So on my screen, I have V for inventory. Steve, you probably have, do you have I for inventory?
I do have I bet I know why you chose E.
I chose V.
Oh, V. I thought you were going to say E.
Yeah,
but E would be a horrible idea, actually.
Exactly, because it's more of an interact.
Yeah.
I made V. It's a little more accessible when you're playing the game in a battle mode. I gotta capture those close second place victory.
Wait, so what? So you use that
for my inventory? V. Just an easier
so
reach.
It's closer. But okay, interesting. Okay, gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah. So we're going to bring in a spawn pad. Now, there's a new kind of spawn pad since we published it. It's called this player spawn pad. I'm going to equip that, and I am going to equip a sequencer. And here's the sequencer. And I will equip that. That goes into the traps category. I'll show you how to access that. And then I need to go into the galleries. And one way to kind of save some time is to use the search function. So if I start typing music, you could see we have a music block gallery. So prefabs are like pre-built structures. Galleries are a collection of themed pieces that you can use to build things. They're not pre-built, but they're all the building blocks. And then devices are the actual interactable type components. And then you have weapons, components, and chests. But we're going to equip this and go back. Now I've basically got the things that I need. So I'm going to press 1 and I can place that spawn pad. So you would place that spawn pad so that when you play the game, this is where you show up instead of falling out of the sky when you spawn into the game. We will have to figure that out when. Actually, we won't really have to play the game. That's another cool thing. I'm going to press Y to pick my sequencer. And you notice I can't put it on the ground here. I'm trying to place it. It wants to be placed, but it won't let me. So the problem there is that I need to build a floor piece. So if I bring up the floor piece, you could see on the right-hand side of my screen, X maps directly to the floor piece. And so I can place that floor piece down, and then I can press Y or use my scroll wheel to change to the sequencer and place it. There's my sequencer. Pretty cool. And now I'm toggling to my phone device. I'm selecting the music notes.
Now, you know what's interesting, and I'm just going to bring this up. So with the music block gallery, you kind of don't have much of a choice but to plop the whole gallery down, because what I was thinking is with some of the other things, you can jump into the gallery in your inventory and choose individual notes. But I guess I know how we'll do it, but because it would be nice to just choose like the 8 notes or something and have them, easier access. But yes. I guess we could do that once we're in the world.
Yes.
Like, watch what I'm going to do. Well, I'm in a different world than you now because I couldn't find where you're building.
Okay.
Which is probably smart because I won't mess up your world.
What's funny is that my world is like maxed out on memory. So
yeah, I notice if you need to come to mine at any point. But so what's cool about, like, let's see if this works though.
Yeah, maybe you do you want to
yeah, I mean we could if you, because you got my screen too, right? So what I'm wondering though is if I so if I select that and put that in 3, but what problem is, see, I still don't know. I guess what I could do, thinking out loud here. So let's say I want to start somewhat of an octave in a sense, right? I can go with my, C as my second one. Let's see. Oops. Now I'm not seeing what I want to see.
All right. Do you hear my music?
Yep.
Okay, good.
It's beautiful.
So yeah. So what I tell you in the like Steve was talking about, the octaves and stuff like that. Like this has 2 octaves, basically, like 2 groupings of the sets of notes. And what I have done and recommended is to kind of separate them so you know where the dividing line is, and it's a little bit of a.
So do you take half of the whole thing and just literally copy it and select all of the notes and move it?
Yeah, I mean, I did that kind of like as a visual in one case, but why don't we pick our sound? So each colored row is a instrument for the most part. There is a kind of like a percussion section that has a bunch of different things, but most of them will be an instrument.
Here we go.
Interesting. And there's a percussion one. So you can hear all these different themed. This one sounds pretty. This pink one here. I'm gonna. What I'm gonna do is, once you find an instrument that you like, I'm gonna recommend selecting the entire row. So I'm gonna pull up my phone to the selection and point at each block, and then I could press R for each one, or I could hold R and then drag across all the blocks to select all of them. And so now if I right click on it, I can pick it up and I can come over here and put it down kind of. So I have a working space over here. And I want to turn grid snap on to 8. Okay, so you could see I pressed on my keyboard, it's the letter V to change grid snap to 8. And I'm going to place that. That forces the blocks to snap 8 increments per square, per tile. And I picked 8, even though we have like a 4 beat measure. 8 is nice because it gives us the ability to do kind of like a half step, half note kind of deal. So I am going to, just for the sake of memory, I'm going to erase a bunch of other things real quick. And this would be how you erase. I'm holding the X key, and I think we have a decent amount of space here. I don't know, like some people probably won't be able to deal with me leaving some of these laying around, so I'll get rid of all of them. I'll take the extra minute to get rid of it all. Okay. When you create a new world, you're not going to have a size limitation on space. It's just that our world is so complicated and has 5 different activities in it. It's kind of pushing the memory boundary limits, but you wouldn't have to worry about what our concern is there. And then kind of like our buddy Kratos said, we have the notes written right there on the blocks. Is super helpful. So B is all the way on the right hand side. Let's kind of walk. There's B again.
Oh, it's funny. I was wondering why it was giving me this other noise at the end. I have my sequencer going into the whole
the music blocks.
Yeah.
Wow, that could be
which is kind of interesting because it waits till the end to do this. I'm like, why does it sound like a cymbal crashing?
That's funny. So what I'm doing just for visual purposes here is I'm going to take the higher octave and move it over a little bit, because now, like if you have a B note, you could see there's B there and there's a B over here. And if you mix and match, it's like playing the same note but on a different part of a piano, it's going to sound awful. So you're making sure when you build your music that you're building as you go up in pitch, that you're moving to the right on the music block list. And if you're going down in pitch, you're moving to the left. So that's super important. And so what I'm going to do here is show you the grid snap.
You want to know something interesting I just noticed, just because I like to experiment? So I wanted to move my sequencer. So I went to right click to cut it, but the part it cut was the board that was under it. And then when I then moved the board, the sequencer still is fine without the board under it, but you need the board under it initially to place it. So if for any reason you wanted to get rid of the board, the planks afterwards, technically, I guess you can. That makes sense.
You couldn't replace them.
I might have lied.
It still needs to be some kind of base material there.
It was weird that time. No, there wasn't, and it stayed for a while I was telling the story, and then it disappeared.
As the entire world was crumbling below you.
Yeah, that's so funny because it really didn't for a while. So now I have to get a new. But the good news is the notes stayed on the ground. So because I wanted to move the sequencer, but anyway.
Nice. Yes, right. You'll have to put a new sequencer. So our sequencer here, I'm using my grid snap 8. You could see how I'm able to overlap the notes, and we'll hear how that sounds versus if I were to use like a grid snap 4, I would only be able to achieve this spacing. So if we jump on the sequencer to start it, I didn't pick the greatest. This is kind of like an electric guitar synthesizer, but you can see these played all pretty quickly and kind of blended together, and then these were more spaced out. So it's important to know your spacing.
Well, and the ones that you have getting hit, by the sequencer at the same time can end up being a chord, which is super nice. So you can really play anything you would want. You could like see how you have them going that way. I mean, that becomes a weird chord because it's not aligned. But if you aligned those 4, it would play all 4 of those notes together, which would make that chord, which is a nice little music thing to point out.
Yes, that would be good. We didn't get into chords in the lesson, but definitely a great extension. Looking into chords and what combinations make the right harmony, because obviously you can make something that sounds bad and you can make something that sounds good. So this is how we're going to be placing blocks in our sequencer area. And I wanted to show you that because it's kind of grid snap is illustrated in the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And we pick 8 as our grid snap.
Oh, now I'm just curious. So I see, what was the rationale behind having them staggered? Like you have the first 4 notes there, because they'll overlap a little bit when they play them.
Yeah, it's just the being able to give yourself. First of all, like actually, one of the things I like about it is, I placed these here with grid snap as still at 8, but I spaced them as 4. So the problem is if I pick up this one and then I put grid snap to 4, it locks hovering the line. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the thing I didn't like about that is how the music note plays when the sequencer hits the edge of it. The edge doesn't align with the blocks, the grids on the floor. So in order to get your notes to align with the grids on the floor, if you use 8, you can move these over a half step, and now you've got your music notes able to align inside of the grid. So we have this, each tile is a measure or bar, right? That is playing up to 4 notes or more if we wanted to do, half notes, things like that, and do things faster. So so that's my reasoning for the 8 grid snap versus the 4 grid snap. Oops. So if I pick that up and switch it back to 8.
But it seems like with 8, you would end up getting
you could still line them up.
You'd get 8 half notes in that measure.
You could, yeah, or you could line them up as 4 in a row, like this.
Right.
So that's the nice thing, is that you can do them all in a row. Because when the sequence, it's just for me, I think visually it's nicer to put the line, just the way the music sheets are written, with the line separating each measure. It's nice to have that visual match in your code. So in the lesson, I'm going to slide this over real quick to my screen. In the lesson plan, we have some sample notes that have the sheet music with the matching letter. So if we were to do Ode to Joy, the one thing I like to look at is also, like, it starts with B, but you can see here that if you follow the verticality of the music notes, the higher note is going to be moving higher, which is, I think, to the right of our music block layout. And if it moves down, it's going to be moving to the left. So you could see, if we look at B, we do go higher than it and we do go lower than it, which is important because one of the options here, I have a B right here and I have a B at the end. If I pick this B just because it was labeled B, I'm in trouble because there is no notes higher than this one. I might accidentally grab, an A or a D or something like that from another area, which is actually a different pitch. So I am picking this B note because there's blocks to the right and there's blocks to the left. So I'm going to pick this up. Looking at my sheet music, I have B, B, C, D. So let's do B, B, And then I'll grab C, again using middle as my source, going one higher, C, and then D, which is yet higher here. And you want to, if you want to get even more specific and more visual, you can set the verticality of these notes in this area here. I probably won't do it for all, but I can show you, like, these could be moved to the middle, and since this one goes higher, you can move it a little higher, and this one goes higher yet. Do that. So visually, you can see the actual flow of the notes. So let's see what this sounds like. Okay, the tempo is too fast. So I'm going to go into my sequencer. I'm going to hit E, and I'm going to lower the tempo. So E is how you interact with things, and then we could change. Let's change it to 60 and see how that sounds. Okay. You hear that, Steve?
Yeah. I'm trying to do it as well.
Yeah. So now.
Ooh, I got it. Music to my ears.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's like Steve's got Guns N' Roses or something like that.
No, I have Ode to Joy.
I got Ode to Joy. Okay.
Cool. I can't wait to make like a whole, create a whole Grateful Dead show in Fortnite Creative with music blocks.
So I'm trying to bring this over here. So we have, I'm going to follow along now with the tiles on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles to get to this little stretch here. And you could choose Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Mary Had a Little Lamb, whatever I picked things that I thought would be easy and attainable for quick study. So we're going to go ahead and move this out of the way, and I'm going to fill those in. So depending on how clever you are and how you want to do things, you could find all of the D's and place them. If you can place them in the correct spot, you can do that. You can see I'm copying. I have D and then I have C, so I'm picking up the blocks that I already put down if I get to reuse them instead of running all the way back to the original source blocks. Saves a little time. So B, and now I need to go get an A, and an A is a little bit lower than the B, so it should be to the right. It's not the A sharp, it's the A. So we'll grab that one, and I'll put it there. Okay, and now G, which is lower or deeper. Okay, it's going to be G, not G sharp. But we'll pull 2 G's. GG's. All right. GG's. All right, and then I'm going to pick. Then I have an A and a B to finish this one out. So I'll do A, B. I'm kind of building this out linear. And then I have, I have another B. Right, and then I have A. Where's that A? There it is. Now, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing we added notes. Okay, so Kratos was like improvised, like, I got this, man. I'm gonna feel it, and then he's like, man, that sounds bad.
Yeah. Now, not to say that you can't, once you get comfortable, really get down to it.
So, Steve, what are the music notes? Are you fresh on are you brushed up on your music?
Well, what's the question?
There's only 3 notes in the final measure.
Okay. Are you asking me to look to the? I'm going
to bring it up on my screen.
What are we doing? Ode to Joy. I got it.
Oh yeah. So the last 2 A's.
Well, it's BAA is the last measure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
We put a rest after the B.
Yeah, I see that. So that's just, now you're just doing that by a space of, what are you considering a rest? Like 2?
Well, a whole rest, a whole note would be
note.
1, would be 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's another reason why this snapping comes in handy, right? Is we have a quarter note.
I love that the sequencer you could, make longer or wider if you need, like that comes in handy.
Yes. Well, we're hitting the limit now. Let's hear what this sounds like.
Nice. Oops.
Right. So you could see that kind of worked. It looked like maybe even these were off by. Let's see how that sounds.
Oh, I love it.
Picked a terrible instrument. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
Mine's no, it sounds good actually. Yours.
Okay.
Now let's see. I want to take this.
Now is the time, like as the teacher, like so here's the thing about loops and looping is that the sequencer is a looping mechanism. So we can use that for executing tasks repetitively, because we have it running once, but we can set it to loop, and we could set the number of times it loops, or to just set it to infinitely loop, and also control it manually, which we'll show you at the end. So the cool thing about the sequencer is that not only can we just kind of have fun like this with playing music, but it's also a tool that's used for doing repetitive tasks. And one of the things we could do, you'd have heard of music loops and things like that in the past. You could end up doing different music sequences and triggering them at different times, or looping them over and over a certain number of times. So you can get creative with the way you orchestrate using these loops. And then once you're familiar with loops and the sequencer, that you could translate that into programming and games. Most games that are made in Fortnite Creative leverage this machine, the sequencer, as a programming loop, which is why we want you to get familiar with it. So I'm going to extend the length of my sequencer just out there. I made it like 18. And this is where you could really kind of let the students go now with building. Now that they have their sample and have perfected it and laid things out, pick the instrument they want, and kind of give them the challenge. So some of the troubleshooting tips, right? Does the song play too fast or too slow? So adjusting the tempo is important. Do your music blocks connect without overlapping, without extra space between them? So have you spaced them out properly? Does it sound jittery or not musical and not comfortable? And are your notes correct? Again, like I said, if you pick the same note from the wrong area, this will sound really off, and it'll be noticeably off. And that's the one thing to investigate is, did I grab a note from the wrong area? Okay, and then just making sure that your sequencer is facing in the right direction and has the right length, and that you know how to activate it. So those are some of the troubleshooting tips that people shouldn't get stuck on at this point. And we're going to build out. How are we doing? We have a little bit of time, so we'll build out a little bit more.
Yeah, I messed something up because I'm hearing my sound. It's funny. It's great when you hear it because you're like, "Ooh, it's just a little off." Yep, no, that's not right on mine anyway.
Actually, since I already have it built, I'll leave the music building I'll leave that to be done here. Let's see if I can't bring in some of these other devices. So I want to show you how to kind of programmatically launch this.
Oh, what's interesting too is, like you said about, that's why it's so important to switch. I see where switching the octaves is important, because I think I went to the wrong A. So now that's where it all falls apart.
Yeah. So you do have to kind of plan ahead and make sure you have enough. If you look at the way your music notes move vertically, make sure you can move that many blocks to the left or right of the one you're starting with.
So did you end up though, like grabbing that whole half of the music block thing to?
Yeah. Well, I grabbed the entire row just to get it away from.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And then I split the 2 octaves.
Yeah.
So I would at least know where the B started again. I did make that mistake originally, just grabbing the letter and then not realizing.
So you're grabbing the whole row using, I'm guessing, the
R,
and then selecting each one individually. Kind of, you kind of have to, right?
If you hold R, you can kind of mouse over it while you're holding R down, which saves you.
Got it. I'm doing it. Oops, but then oh man, that didn't work. But then you got to make sure because when you select it, can you unselect certain ones? I guess R again.
Yeah, basically, just.
Yeah, there we go.
Lift up R, and then you could basically start an unselecting.
Yeah, selecting it again. That's good. I like it. All right,
So I'm going to see if I can't bring in a button here, and bring in. I think that's all we'll need to do right now. I'll bring in a billboard, I guess, too. So we have this button, which is going to take 12 memory, which is nice. If I place it, there's the button. So what I can do is I could use this button to send a signal to the sequencer to start playing the song. And that's using what's called channels. And so this one, I can interact with this. One of the things you can do is go to this radio type icon, which just gets you to the channel communication and away from some of the other settings that are available in a button. And when interacted with, transmit on. So we can pick a number, I'll say 142, and then this sequencer start sequence when receiving channel from 142. So now in the game, when I press this button, it's going to trigger this sequence to play. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let me just make sure we have.
I tell you, thank goodness for the drop, setting drops or not drops. Like the things that start. Well, yeah, I mean, because I'm moving something and they kind of want it all on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm. So here's my implementation of Ode to Joy in our demo, and you can see here I've got 2 instruments playing the same note, and then I have the pink, which is a percussion. And what I really liked about this is that I was able to kind of drop the percussion in a consistent sequence so that it kept that rhythm going. And you could see it visually. It doesn't line up with all the blocks, but you know that it's spaced evenly so that it kind of creates that underlying flow. So let's listen.
Play that again.
Ready? Here's.
Love it. Wow, beautiful. Answer me this. If you can look back at the way you have it laid out in the sequencer, which one are we watching right now?
This is the full Ode to Joy. Oh,
man. This one here that we're looking at.
Yeah, so the one is the full Ode to Joy.
Mm-hmm. So now you are essentially, I'm guessing, it's kind of like you're using chords or in your case, it's different instruments playing the same note, but a different sound, which is interesting because if you had on those parallels, if you had, 3 different notes like A, C, D, that would be playing a chord. But in your case, it's almost like a multi-track recording.
Yeah. So let me show you here. That's the bass. And then this is kind of like the cymbal hi-hat. Or the snare, I guess that's a snare. So that's bass snare, bass snare.
Oh my God. So that part's just like the percussion. That's not the melody at all.
And then you have, and so you can see what I did was I picked 2 different instruments. They're both piano, but this one is a little more higher pitch and this one's a little lower. So they're two different pianos, same notes,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt it gave a little more richness to the
Mm-hmm.
sound by doing them together. So I've got the high and the low playing together, and then this percussion.
That's so awesome. I mean, I see an incredibly fun contest of kids making music in Fortnite and and then going beyond that and doing some visual stuff with it. I mean, it shows such a different side of Fortnite Creative that I think could really be amplified. I think it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's that's the fun thing about this one is that it takes you down a direction. I think all of these lessons that we created are not like here's coding and here's how you're going to learn coding. It's like here's cool things that you can do, and oh, by the way, did you know this is useful in coding the same way you're using it?
Right. That's what I found so interesting with my students is that they did learn these coding concepts, but they also really learned how to implement different elements of Fortnite Creative into their games. So that was where, it's like it's kind of like a head fake, right? Like they're learning the coding, but some of them are like, even more excited. Just the fact that now they have a new skill to implement to serve a very valid purpose in their game.
Yeah.
And it happens to utilize computer science concepts.
And it's intuitive because they know what it is, they know how it works, and they know why they need it because they put those pieces together rather than teaching them like, here's a thing and you got to put it here and here, this I think is super engaging, super fun. I've never really made music before, and this was a fun exercise for me as well.
Awesome. Well, I hope that everybody who's been watching us these last few weeks has enjoyed what we've been doing. I mean, we've really gone through each of these Hour of Code lessons. They're all archived. So if any teachers want to use these, to support their students in doing these activities, you have basically all 5 activities in an hour-long video to fast forward, rewind as you please, and hopefully that will help you implement some of this in the classroom and beyond. And hopefully a lot of people have been watching and being like, I just want to do this myself and do cool stuff.
Yep. It's okay to play. That's
definitely.
That's how to, I mean, you could be a better better guide and a better teacher if you don't mind getting in and having some fun, kind of like you do, Steve. You not afraid to get in there and learn, so you know where to. You can quickly distill the value for students that may miss it.
Yeah. And quite honestly, I don't like there's plenty, I don't mind being a little green myself and going in there and like learning, with the kids, and it's like, I think it's just great. I think it's great. I think the kids are doing a phenomenal job with these activities. And yes, I mean, having the context and the ability to support them through it is certainly helpful. But anyway, I guess that kind of is a wrap for us today. Yeah. And thank you, Bri.
Yeah, I'm glad we got it worked out. Thank you for whoever joined, and Steve, thanks again for all of your help in bringing like these cool concepts and opportunities to teachers and students around the world. You're awesome. Appreciate you.
You are awesome. I appreciate you.
Cool. All right, Kratos, thanks for sticking around, buddy. For it's great to have.
Now you can almost go to bed. It's got to be like 11 o'clock there or something. So now I'll tell you something real quick. But Kratos and a number of his colleagues in Israel joined us for the last workshop, and those go from 12 to 6. So we had them up until like 1 a.m. with us on a Saturday doing Fortnite Creative and stuff. And there's our buddy Gatlin.
Yeah.
So very cool. Thanks everybody. And Brian, I will see you soon. I'm feeling like there might be some game playing in my near future this evening if you're down for any kind of gaming.
All right. I'm ready. So hit me up.
I will. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.